This is the lecture for Richard Arneson's Why Not Capitalism? First topic. Um, Patrick Tomlin observes that the luck egalitarianism that Cohen espouses. What is luck egalitarianism? It is, as Arneson points out on page 210, this is luck egalitarianism is Arneson's label for socialist equality of opportunity. So luck egalitarianism is basically what a lot of the Cohen article was about, socialist equality of opportunity. So Patrick Tomlin observes that the luck egalitarianism, the social equality of opportunity that Cohen espouses, contradicts another norm to which he also seems committed. The idea that justice requires individuals to choose careers and occupations that will effectively use their talents to contribute to social production without demanding incentive pay that would render them better off than others in return for using their talents to boost the wealth and resources available or make people better off. So this another norm to which he also seems committed, this other thing that Cohen says, I want to lecture about this because it's a really interesting topic, and we didn't read about it. Also, it would help to understand it, to understand what Arneson says down here. But I mean, you don't really need to, but just because this is very good. So this is an objection that Cohen makes to Rawls. So Rawls has the difference principle, and the difference principle says social and economic inequalities are justified only to the extent that they are for the sake of the worst off. So if they make things better for the worst off person, they're justified. Otherwise, we have equality. And in the lecture for that, I gave some examples of why departure from equality might be better for the worst off person. And one of the examples I gave was, imagine that we have a society where it would be nice to have a lot of doctors, but being a doctor is really hard work and not a lot of people want to do it, or being a farmer is really good for society, but being a farmer is a lot of hard work. So if we pay everybody equally, we won't have enough doctors or farmers. They're just going to do easier jobs instead of spending their life on the difficult job of being a doctor or a farmer. So maybe let's bump up the pay level for doctors and farmers. And then we'll have enough people who are doctors and farmers, and all of society will benefit, including the worst off. The worst off will be better off because there are more doctors and more farmers. And this is fine from the point of view of justice. Justice requires us to pay more to the doctors and farmers. Why? Because this will help the worst off. And this is good. We want to help the worst off. So that's what justice requires. And Cohen comes up to Rawls and says, that's not justice. What's going on here in the society you're imagining is that you have a bunch of people saying, oh, I could be a doctor, I could be a farmer, and I know this would benefit the worst off in society, but I refuse to do this unless you pay me extra. I don't want to be a doctor. That's a lot of work. And, I'd rather just do something else with my life. Unless you make me rich, then I'll be a doctor. Or I don't want to be a farmer. That's a pain. Unless I'm going to get rich, then I'll be a farmer. Sure. And Cohen says, hold on, if people are behaving like this in society, this is an unjust situation already. We already lack justice if this is the way people are treating each other in society. Specifically, why? Well, look, justice requires individuals to choose careers and occupations that will effectively use their talents to contribute to social production without demanding incentive pay that would render them better off than others in return for using their talents. So if you want to assume that people are going to follow justice, you should assume that they'll be doctors and they'll be farmers for the sake of the worst off without having to be paid extra. They'll just do it because this is what justice requires. And remember, Rawls is designing his principles of justice for a sort of ideal theory, a sort of strict compliance theory where everybody is doing what justice requires of them. Of course, that's not how real life works, but we're just simplifying for the sake of Rawls's theory. And so he says, just imagine people are doing what justice requires of them. And Cohen says, look, if people were doing what justice requires of them, they would never ask for more than an equal share of money. They would be willing to work harder because they're more talented. They can be a doctor, or they can be a farmer, whereas other people maybe aren't cut out for being a doctor, or they aren't cut out for being a farmer. Not everyone can be a doctor. It's really hard. Not everyone can be a farmer. It's really hard. But some people can, and if they're going to be just about it, they're going to say, I will do this for the sake of the worst off without having to be paid extra. So Cohen says, Rawls's theory doesn't completely make sense. If people were really following the principles of justice, you wouldn't have to pay them extra. We could have equal distribution of money in Rawls's society, and we can still benefit the worst off. We can have just as many doctors and farmers as we need, because people will do this because justice requires it of them. Now, of course, in real life, maybe people won't do this, but like whatever, real life is a very unjust place. In a just society, people would not hold out for extra money before they agree to be a doctor or a farmer. So that's interesting. You don't, really need to understand this to understand the point Arneson is making. Arneson is using this as an example to make his point. So, if none of that made sense, that's fine, but it's interesting as a critique of Rawls. And of course, you can also imagine how this relates to socialism, because in a socialist society, people would be willing to be doctors or lawyers, or doctors or farmers without, getting paid extra, because nobody's getting paid extra in a socialist society. Everybody's being paid the same. Maybe. So the next two topics, Arneson against solidarity and Arneson against reciprocity. I'm just going to explain some arguments that he makes. They go by pretty fast, and so it might be difficult to understand them. And so, just I'm going to help you out. But this is, in principle, you can just read Arneson and understand this. So maybe you won't need my explanation, but maybe you will. Let's find out. The solidarity attitude that Cohen endorses has the peculiarity that it requires beneficence only when the objects of beneficence would be worse off than others, so that acting on solidarity would be equality promoting. So if Bill Gates has already had a great life and I have not, the two of us are isolated together and grievously sick, and somehow I find myself in possession of life-saving medicine that could either provide me with 1 extra day of good life, or Gates with 10 or 20 or even more years of good life. Solidarity, as characterized, does not require that I care about helping others in a way that would dispose me to give the medicine to Gates, who can make such better use of it in these circumstances. So Arneson is saying, look, the kind of solidarity that Cohen is interested in, this sort of camping trip solidarity, it's basically, it's solidarity sort of for the purpose of equality. Remember, it's called a socialist equality of opportunity. And so the kind of solidarity Cohen is interested in is the kind of solidarity that makes people want to make everybody in society equal. So it's solidarity about promoting equality. So, solidarity is what makes me care about the person who is badly off, and I want to make them better because, we should all be equal. We're all together here in this socialist society. And Rawls points out, so this kind of solidarity, caring about, making everybody equal in society and, helping people out because, we're all in it together and we should all be equal. That kind of solidarity, if you and Bill Gates are going to die and you could either save yourself for a day or save Bill Gates for 10 or 20 years or whatever, that kind of solidarity, let's make everybody equal. That solidarity doesn't tell you give the medicine to Bill Gates. Why? Because he's already way past you. He's had a much better life than you so far. He's super rich and everything's gone fantastic. And, if you save him right now, his life is just going to get even better. He's going to go on for 10, 20 years or whatever, and you're going to be dead. And so at this point, Gates is way far past you in equality. So the kind of Cohen solidarity doesn't say give it to Bill Gates. If anything, it says give it to you. That'll make you a bit more equal compared to Bill Gates. You'll get 1 extra day of life, and Bill Gates is going to die right now. So, that lessens the gap a little bit. And Arneson says, let's think about that. I do not see that this constrained beneficence attitude should be promoted. Rather than a broader beneficence disposition that is triggered whenever someone is in peril and one is in a position to do good by helping. So Arneson says, I don't know if I like Cohen's description of, solidarity. I think really what makes sense is that we should just have a broader beneficence disposition that is triggered whenever someone's in peril and one is in a position to do good by helping. So notice that would still basically get us the Cohen stuff. So like you would still help out other people in your society when, they're doing badly or something. Because look, they're in peril and you're in a position to do good by helping. So you should, solidarity is still a good thing in Cohen's sense. But like Cohen's idea of solidarity is too limited. Uh, Cohen's thing says don't give the medicine to Bill Gates. But Arneson thinks, no, of course, give the medicine to Bill Gates. 1 day of life for you is nothing compared to 10, 20, even more years of life for Bill Gates. This is much more important that Bill Gates gives the medicine. So what kind of, what kind of solidarity, what kind of beneficence is it if it tells you not to give the medicine to Bill Gates? So he thinks, I don't like this Cohen style solidarity. So that's an argument. Agree, disagree? What do you think? Second, in many circumstances, the reciprocity disposition that Cohen affirms would be appropriate to have. So what's the reciprocity disposition that Cohen affirms? You want to benefit other people, not just like for your own sake, but for their sake. And of course, you are expecting that they're going to benefit you because we're all in this together. This is a big socialist society where we're all helping each other out. I expect that you will help me out. You expect that I will help me out. That we all have this disposition of reciprocity to help each other out because we're all going to get helped out. We're all in it together. However, there are circumstances in which I should want to take from you and keep taking without payback of any sort. Suppose I am very disabled, but my pains and woes can be alleviated by aid from you at reasonable cost. In that case, it would be good for you to be disposed to take care of me and to act on that disposition, and for me to keep taking. Maybe I should be disposed to reciprocate your aid to me when that's appropriate. But this just means when correct moral principles specify that payback is appropriate and not otherwise. The reciprocity disposition we fundamentally ought to have, if any, is a disposition to behave toward all who might be affected by one's actions and omissions in whatever way morality might require. In a sense, the disposition is purely formal. Its content is filled in by whatever the correct principle of morality requires. So Arneson says, no, forget this reciprocity thing Cohen has where, I'm willing to give to you, you're willing to give to me, we're all willing to give to each other, we're all willing to sort of share and share alike in socialism. No, sometimes you should not be willing to like pay people back. Like, maybe you're very disabled, you should just be disposed to like take and take and take. And nobody should be expecting that you give back. That's the right kind of disposition sometimes. It shouldn't always be a reciprocal thing. Some people should just take, like some people just need. And if somebody is always needy and is never going to be in a position to help others out, then nothing wrong with that. They're not sort of missing out on some valuable reciprocity thing. Rather, it should just be, pay people back when it morally makes sense to pay back, but it doesn't always make sense to pay people back. If you're severely disabled, maybe you should never pay anybody back for anything. Maybe society should just sort of give to you and never take. So Arneson doesn't like Cohen's reciprocity sort of thing. So again, that's the argument. Agree, disagree? What do you think? I mean, he goes on a bit about this, but next topic. Technically, there's no disagreement here because Mueller was merely making empirical claims, and Arneson is not quite. I don't know. Maybe there is not a technical disagreement, but like broadly speaking, in spirit, Arneson is disagreeing with Mueller in this reading. He talks about, this is in the context of talking about Cohen, obviously, but like it's in the context of like what kind of whether there is some sort of motivation requirement on free exchange. And yeah, I think technically there actually may be no disagreement, but in spirit there's a big disagreement between Mueller and Arneson. So when you get to this part of the reading, like 224 or 225, think back to Mueller and consider him versus Arneson. And then finally, I've mentioned this twice before, once in Hayek and once in Cohen, but like it comes out most strongly in the Arneson reading, so it's worth mentioning it. As Arneson points out, I think a lot of this is in the addendum, but it's also, all throughout the reading. A lot of Cohen's understanding of socialism is such that market socialism for Cohen is sort of like not real socialism. That's not, it doesn't get you everything you want from socialism. And so it's worth thinking about. I don't know. What do you think about that? Is market socialism real socialism, or is it not? Do we need more from socialism than just what we get from market socialism? So this came up in Cohen, but it also comes up in Arneson. So, pay attention to it again.